Welcome back to another episode of our Message Recap, the show where we recap messages. And Shaheen is in a bad mood today.
I am.
Is it a bad mood or just a down mood?
I feel very depressed today.
So it's
Kevin,
a down
his
mood.
heart is vexed.
He is vexed.
I'm vexed. I am. Yeah.
I was
We're not
vexed
talking
the
about me
other
right
day,
now.
Vexed.
But we were just talking about, so I'm feeling heavy about the church, Christianity, the movement. Why aren't we more passionate? Why aren't all of us more passionate? The end is here. Eternity doesn't change it. And we can seem like we're not interested as a whole. That gets you down.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. And I was just, we were just talking about this thing. And I said, I would just suggest don't fake it. We're down sometimes.
Just kidding. Okay, I'm not going to fake it today.
Don't fake it.
Here we go.
We're down sometimes.
Well, we did have a message. Kevin, you spoke this week.
Yes.
Second week of our series, Stress Less. Shaheen.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just
Stress
overwhelmed with stress.
And last week we talked about how we get stressed out because we're discontent. This week we talked about how we get stressed out because we're insecure and how we're searching for security in things that don't give us security.
Yeah. Alex Trebek died yesterday. Everything he worked for, everything he had. I don't know him personally or what he was trusting in.
If you don't know who that is, it's the host of Jeopardy.
Yes.
The longtime host of
Done
Jeopardy.
it for years.
He passed
very
away.
successful,
Yep.
and he passed away. And something that we say around here oftentimes is, if you live long enough, you will lose everything you know or have. If you live long enough, even your children will die. You will lose everything. And the whole point of that is just to get us to live with a better perspective.
Yeah.
And that is that nothing in this world is secure. Just like last week, nothing in this world will satisfy. It won't. Maybe for a little while. We're talking ultimately in our lives, nothing in this physical world will satisfy the human heart and soul except a connection with our Creator. And nothing is secure in this physical world except for God's love and relationship with us.
Yeah.
Nothing can separate us from that. That does. Now, it's not magic. You say all the time, silver bullet.
Yep.
It doesn't happen all of a sudden. But if human beings are looking to stress less, we need to go there. We need to go there. God, you are the one that satisfies. And sometimes we forget or we drift. We need to remind ourselves, I got to go back to, hey, God, you're still here. When a tragedy happens in our life, we just lost a loved one or a child or a job, or, hey, God, you're still here. Eternity's still, nothing's changed. Nothing. And that does take stress out of our life.
Yeah.
What keeps us from that?
I think the lure of bright light, the lure of this world, that it's so, we are physical beings and we can taste it, see it, touch it, experience it. So it's so real to us. We keep being fooled that this will satisfy, because when I eat a candy bar, oh, it tastes so good, but you want another one when you're done with that one, and pretty soon you feel sick, so like the satisfaction of anything in this world is like that.
One of my favorite parts, I'm glad you added it, was talking about this whole, it was at the very end, this idea that it's cumulative, that it's not that magic silver bullet sort of thing. And can you just expound on that a little bit? Because in this funky mood that I'm in right now, I don't feel like, and it's probably because my idea of security is still not totally in God. I'm looking to some other things, but as I sat yesterday and even this morning, okay, God, come on, let's help me get out of this. But it's not take a pill and I magically feel better. So
Right.
you,
it's no different than, we can make the analogy to exercising. If we exercise on a regular basis, you can skip 3 or 4 days and the effect is still in your body. You can exercise really hard one day and it doesn't really change anything. It's just cumulative. It adds up. And this relationship with God, that's why I would really encourage people, all of us, not to wait till tragedy comes to start experiencing God. Because if you wait till tragedy comes, or a big loss or a big disappointment, and then okay, God, I want you to fix me, it's not going to happen. This is something, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And in relationships, there is this building trust, building familiarity. And we can not talk to God for a week and we're still close to him. We can talk to God all day one day and we're not really any closer to him. It's just what we do on a regular basis builds our trust level and our familiarity with the creator of all things, the holder of eternity. The perspective of reality is in the presence of God. And so you're familiar with God. You know, sometimes a physical thing will overcome your spiritual connection for a short time, but that spiritual connection is there. You won't stay this way very long, and then God's presence will be familiar again, and you know, that's familiar. I do trust you. Nothing's really changed. You do have the future. I am secure in you, and that will build. I just want to add, this had nothing to do with the message, but sometimes, and I know just from being a pastor and just wanting the mission, I want everybody, every single human being to know Jesus Christ before they go, and to see other Christians who know that and aren't passionate about telling others, aren't passionate about building a church, aren't passionate about giving and serving to build this kingdom, because nothing matters but people know Jesus Christ. It might not be a personal thing that's got you down. It might be a disappointment in the mission, a disappointment in others that might get you down. It might not be a personal thing like, God, I'm fine. I'm affected by, I'm just disappointed in. How come everybody doesn't see this as urgent as you see this? Yeah, how come everybody isn't, and it's perspective. How come every Christian out there doesn't realize that anyone they know, anyone in this world that doesn't know Jesus Christ will go to eternal hell when they die? And knowing that, like the Bible says, we know the fear of God. We know the end. We are compelled to reach everybody we can and to do everything we can, And so what does everything you can mean? I don't know, but at least doing something, and this is a priority in my life. I do other things. We live, we eat, we go.
Yep.
But the number one compelling thing in a Christian's life should be, often isn't, should be engaged in reaching one more person, because there is nothing that matters outside of that. Nothing really matters. And so that's got you down a little bit. You will recover. God's presence will lift you up, like any one of us, when we're in a spot like that. And it happens. We get that. Here's what I have always done, in the last 10, 15 years. When I feel like you do, I try to be alone with God, and I just try to I try to envision God, and I always see God on his throne, not worried.
Yeah.
He's not depressed. He knows what's going on just like you do, but he's not depressed. He's not down. He's still victorious. God, I want your heart and perspective when I'm down. And you know what? He will lift you up. He will. And
so that plays into, now we cannot have my counseling session anymore.
Okay.
That plays into all these other things that you talked about then, right?
Yeah.
When you have those feelings of, I lost my job, and there's this weight on you, or this, whatever you want to call it, or, even so far as to lose a loved one, this, probably more intense what I'm feeling right now, but that same thing, perspective.
Yep.
About, well, God's still in control. God's still on the throne. He still wants to be active in our lives and fill us with joy and peace beyond our circumstances, right?
For sure.
Isn't that the point?
Absolutely. I think it's even a step further than that, if you will, where, cognitively we can go, well, God's in control, nothing's changing, life is short, all that stuff. But I'm talking about even a presence in our being.
That Ephesians verse you read.
That we can be so fulfilled with the glory, fullness of God himself. I remember I read some stories of Chinese people that were put in prison as Christians. And they had written that they had more life in jail. They were in prison for the rest of their lives. But they lived every day full of joy, and their hearts were thinking, how can that happen? How they are in the presence of a living, joyful, fully God. And we say this all the time. Our joy in God is not determined by circumstances, no matter how good or how bad. God is bigger and more real than any circumstance in this physical world. But that's where this whole cumulative relationship, our trust builds. The more time we spend with God, the more we feel that. I'm guessing that most of you here and some of us watching this have had a quiet time, a worship time or whatever, where we really were in the midst of God's presence. Like, we didn't care if the building fell in. We didn't care if we lost. We didn't care. God's presence is bigger than anything else we could care about. You quoted that song 2 weeks ago. You know, that, hey, the more we are with God, the things of this world just grow strangely dim. They just don't have that draw anymore. Like, oh, that's not even in color compared to God.
Yeah.
That's black and white. I'm not really. And this isn't just talk. This isn't just religion.
Yep.
This is the value of Christianity connecting us in a living relationship, a living experience with God, our creator of the universe, and the difference he makes in our life. And here's the cool thing. The writer of It Is Well With My Soul. I mean, that whole
Horatio.
story. Yep. He went back to where the ship went down, where his family was lost and drowned.
Oh, gosh.
He went over that part and he penned those words that it is well with my soul. Because this life is a vapor, no matter what this life. And we're not going to pretend things aren't valuable to us. They are very valuable. They're just in comparison not as valuable, which gets us through because the value is a relationship with God. I don't know if that made sense. I tried to cover a lot of stuff, but
No, it did.
But the point is, you and I can live there.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to. God has offered us, come to me, and I will fulfill you. When Jesus said, John 10:10, you know, a thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. He's not talking about new cars and fancy boats and new clothes. He's talking about, come to me and you will have life to the abundant fullness that can't be contained in you. Circumstances don't matter. As a matter of fact, I keep referring to America. You know, you know what? We are in 21st century America. People, we almost start thinking that we have it so good and so much pleasure, even during COVID and layoffs. We have everything so nice. We forget that life before this time has never been this nice, ever. People didn't find their comfort in their possessions in all of human history. They found it in God's presence. That's why Christianity grew so much, is because the presence of God was so real. It lifted people out of misery, you know, really, literally. They didn't even notice how uncomfortable their life was being filled with the presence of God. Okay, all of that to say, we can stress less. We can. It's not a dream. It's not a wish. We can. It's always going to lead to experiencing God to fill us. Week number 1. There's nothing we can buy that's going to fill that hole. And there's nothing that's going to be secure that we can keep except the presence of God. Both of those.
Well, he gave message number 1, and there was message number 2.
I was just going to say, this is a 2-message week.
Yep, that was message number 2, and
Well, they go hand in hand. You got to admit.
They do.
and that's the end of the episode. That's good job, Kevin. No, it was good.
Sounds good.
It was a good week, good series, stress
Yep.
less. We all have stress. Again, you can't tell me that you don't, because we've all had it. So make sure to watch that. It's called Insecurity Stress. It's going to pop up here in a second. Like, subscribe. We'll be back next week, hopefully with Shaheen in a better mood. Have a great week.